A billionaire saw a waitress fired for helping his autistic daughter. He walked up and said, "You work for me now." The hushed elegance of Le Ciel wrapped around its patrons like velvet. Crystal chandeliers casting amber light. The soft clink of silverware on bone china. Murmured conversations blending with a pianist's delicate nocturne. Rowan Hayes entered the dining room. His $1,000 suit sharp as armor. His jaw set. Tonight marked the anniversary. Tonight he'd prove he could do this alone. Beside him, Mia clutched her smooth stone, her 6-year-old frame rigid, gray eyes scanning the tables with mounting alarm. Her footsteps grew smaller. "Just one dinner, sweetheart," Rowan whispered, his hand gentle on her shoulder. But the restaurant pressed in. Perfume clouds, chair scrapes, whispered judgments. Mia's breathing shortened. Her fingers began tapping frantically against the stone, her eyes squeezed shut. Then came the hum, low, penetrating, uncontrollable. Every head turned. Welcome to Life in Stories! If you love tales of second chances, unexpected connections, and the moments that change everything, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe so you never miss a story that moves you, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's build this community together. A billionaire saw a waitress fired for helping his autistic daughter. He walked up and said, "You work for me now." The hushed elegance of Le Ciel wrapped around its patrons like velvet, crystal chandeliers casting amber light, the soft clink of silverware on bone china, murmured conversations blending with a pianist's delicate nocturne. Rowan Hayes entered the dining room, his $1,000 suit sharp as armor, his jaw set. Tonight marked the anniversary. Tonight he'd prove he could do this alone. Beside him, Mia clutched her smooth stone, her 6-year-old frame rigid, gray eyes scanning the tables with mounting alarm. Her footsteps grew smaller. "Just one dinner, sweetheart," Rowan whispered, his hand gentle on her shoulder. But the restaurant pressed in, perfume clouds, chair scrapes, whispered judgments. Mia's breathing shortened. Her fingers began tapping frantically against the stone. Her eyes squeezed shut. Then came the hum, low, penetrating, uncontrollable. Every head turned. Rowan Hayes had built an empire on fixing broken things, failing tech companies, dying product lines, quarterly reports bleeding red. He'd walk into boardrooms with that same crisp confidence, dissect the problems with surgical precision, and restructure entire corporations before lunch. They called him the turnaround king in Forbes, the man with the Midas touch. But he couldn't fix his daughter. The realization carved deeper every day, a wound that wouldn't close. He'd tried everything, the top specialists, the most expensive therapies, the cutting-edge interventions that promised breakthroughs. Mia remained unreachable, locked in a world he couldn't enter no matter how many doors his money could buy. His suit felt tighter tonight. The Italian wool, tailored to perfection on Savile Row, seemed less like professional polish and more like a cage armor against a battle he was losing. The anniversary made everything worse. Claire had been gone 3 years today. 3 years since the car accident that took his wife and left him floundering in fatherhood. She'd understood Mia in ways he never could. She'd known which touches were welcome, which sounds were soothing, which silences meant peace versus panic. Rowan had none of that instinct. So tonight, desperate for normalcy, he'd brought Mia to Le Ciel, the restaurant where he and Claire had celebrated their first anniversary. Perhaps the ghost of better times would somehow translate into connection. Perhaps the elegant atmosphere would feel special rather than suffocating. He'd been a fool. Mia sat across from him in the velvet booth, her small body coiled tight. The smooth stone, a river rock Claire had given her years ago, moved between her fingers in rapid, anxious patterns. Her braided hair, which the nanny had styled so carefully, was already coming loose from how she'd been pulling at it. The restaurant hummed with refined conversation. A woman 3 tables over laughed. The sound piercing. Silverware scraped against plates. A waiter uncorked wine with a sharp pop. The pianist transitioned into something more complex. Notes cascading, Mia's stone tapping accelerated. "Sweetheart, look at me," Rowan said softly, leaning forward. "We can leave if—" But she was already gone. Her eyes squeezed shut, her face contorting. The low hum started in her throat, that soul-deep vibration that meant complete sensory overload. Her small body began rocking, forward and back, the rhythm unconscious and desperate. The conversations around them stuttered died. Rowan felt the weight of 50 stares, each one a judgment. "Control your child. This isn't appropriate. What kind of parent brings a disturbed child to Le Ciel?" His throat tightened. "Mia, please!" A shadow fell across their table. Mr. Dubois, the restaurant's manager, materialized with the silent efficiency of a shark. His expression was professionally blank, but his eyes were cold calculation. Damage control, brand protection. "Mr. Hayes," he said, voice low and smooth as oil, "perhaps we might—" "Don't." Rowan's voice came out harder than intended. "Don't ask me to leave." Dubois' smile never wavered. "I'm simply suggesting that your daughter might be more comfortable in a quieter—" Mia's hum grew louder, more distressed. She was rocking faster now, her knuckles white around the stone. Rowan's heart shattered. He was failing, again, always. Then someone knelt beside their booth. A young woman in the restaurant's black and white server uniform appeared at eye level with Mia. She didn't speak, didn't reach out. Instead, she pulled something from her apron pocket. Another smooth stone, smaller than Mia's but similar in shape. She placed it gently on the table and began to tap. The rhythm was complex, syncopated. 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, 2, pause, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not random, intentional, musical. Mia's humming changed pitch. The woman, her name tag read Kate, continued the pattern, her fingers moving with practiced precision against the marble tabletop. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, pause. Mia's rocking slowed. Kate slid her stone across the table, still tapping a matching rhythm on the booth's wooden edge. The sound was softer now, inviting rather than intrusive. Mia's eyes opened. Just a crack at first, then wider. Her gray gaze fixed on the stone, then on Kate's fingers, then on Kate's face. The humming faded to silence for a moment. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Then Mia's small hand moved. Slowly, deliberately, she slid her own stone across the table until it touched Kate's. She began tapping, the same pattern, the same rhythm, perfectly synchronized. Kate smiled. Not a pitying smile, not a nervous smile. A genuine expression of recognition, of seeing Rowan couldn't breathe, couldn't move. In 6 months of therapy, specialists, interventions, no one had reached his daughter like this. No one. "Kate!" The sharp voice shattered the moment. Mr. Dubois stood rigid, his professional mask cracking into fury. "My office, now!" Kate stood slowly, her eyes never leaving Mia. "Yes, sir." "You do not kneel on the floor. You do not interrupt patrons. You do not—" Dubois' voice dropped to a hiss. "You're fired. Collect your things and leave immediately." Kate's shoulders sagged, but she nodded. "I understand." "No." Rowan's voice cut through the restaurant like a blade. He stood, his full height imposing, his expression carved from ice. "Mr. Dubois, your cruelty is unacceptable." He pulled his wallet out, extracted 5 crisp $100 bills, and dropped them on the table. "Consider that compensation for our unfinished meal and your insufferable judgment." Dubois sputtered. "Mr. Hayes, I assure you, you're a small man running a beautiful restaurant like a prison." Rowan turned to Kate, his voice softening. "What's your full name?" Kate Moreau," she said, stunned. "Kate Moreau. You just did what a team of specialists couldn't do in 6 months." You saw my daughter as a person, not a problem. He extended his hand. You work for me now, as Mia's advocate, if you'll accept. Kate stared at his outstretched hand, then at Mia, who was still tapping the rhythm softly against the table, her eyes clearer than Rowan had seen them in months. Yes, Kate whispered. Yes. Behind them, the restaurant erupted in whispers. Mr. Dubois stood frozen, his face crimson, but Rowan only heard one sound, Mia's gentle tapping, repeating Kate's rhythm like a message in a language he'd finally begun to understand. The Hayes estate sat behind iron gates like a monument to success and isolation. 12,000 square feet of marble, glass, and silence. Rowan had purchased it after Claire's death, thinking a fresh start would help. Instead, it had become a mausoleum, beautiful, cold, and impossibly lonely until Kate arrived. The housekeeper, Mrs. Damien, had pursed her lips when Rowan explained the arrangement. A waitress, Mr. Hayes? Living in the guest house? Working with Mia? An advocate, Rowan corrected firmly. Kate is Mia's advocate. But he saw the skepticism in the staff's eyes. The gardener whispered to the cook. The nanny, now reassigned to administrative duties, watched Kate's every move with barely concealed resentment. Who does this girl think she is? Kate ignored them all. She moved into the guest house with a single duffel bag, asked for nothing, and within an hour had Mia sitting beside her on the back patio, stones arranged between them in careful patterns. Rowan watched from his office window, coffee growing cold in his hand. Mia hadn't voluntarily sat near anyone in months. Not the nanny, not the therapists, not him. But there she was, cross-legged on the flagstones, her small fingers mimicking Kate's tapping rhythm against a smooth river rock. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. Kate placed a yellow sticky note on the ground, drew a simple sun, and tapped twice. Mia looked at the sun, tapped twice back. Kate drew a moon, tapped once. Mia's hand hovered, then tapped once. The corner of her mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but something close. Something Rowan hadn't seen since Claire died. His throat tightened. Over the following days, the house transformed in ways Rowan couldn't have predicted. Kate's rhythm and response approach was nothing like the clinical interventions he'd paid thousands for. There were no worksheets, no forced eye contact drills, no behavior modification charts. Instead, Kate met Mia in her world, speaking the language of patterns and textures and gentle repetition. She taped colored squares along the hallway. Red meant stop and breathe. Green meant safe to continue. Yellow meant choose your path. Mia began touching them as she walked, her steps more purposeful, less frantic. She introduced tapping games at mealtimes. 3 taps meant more please. 2 taps meant all done. 1 tap meant I need space. Within a week, Mia was communicating preferences Rowan hadn't known she had. She didn't like carrots, but loved sweet potatoes. She wanted her water cold, not room temperature. She preferred her toast cut diagonally. Simple things. Revolutionary things. Kate filled the playroom with textured fabrics, silk, burlap, velvet, and let Mia explore them without pressure. She brought in bins of dried rice and beans for sensory play. She painted smooth stones in different colors and assigned each one a meaning: blue for calm, red for frustrated, yellow for happy, green for tired. Mia began selecting stones throughout the day, placing them on the kitchen counter like little emotional reports. And Rowan, watching all of this unfold, felt something inside him crack open. One evening, he found Kate in the library writing in a notebook. Mia was curled on the couch nearby, running her fingers over a piece of velvet, humming softly, contentedly. "How do you know what to do?" Rowan asked, his voice rough. Kate looked up, surprised. "I don't always. I just pay attention. Mia tells me what she needs if I'm willing to listen." The therapists said she needed structure compliance training, applied behavioral analysis. He said the terms like they tasted bitter. 40 hours a week of intensive intervention. ABA works for some kids, Kate said carefully. But Mia doesn't need to be fixed, Mr. Hayes. She needs to be understood. The words hit him like a physical blow. I've been trying to fix her, he said quietly. Just like I fix companies. Identify the problem, apply the solution, measure the results. He sat down heavily in the leather armchair. But she's not broken. I've been approaching this all wrong. Kate's expression softened. You love her. That's not wrong. But love isn't enough if I don't know how to show it in ways she can receive. He looked at Mia, peaceful for the first time in months. Teach me. Please. Teach me how to do what you do. So she did. Kate showed him the tapping patterns, the visual cues, the importance of warning before transitions. She taught him to notice Mia's breathing, the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers moved when she was approaching overload. Don't try to stop the stimming, Kate explained as Mia flapped her hands near the window, watching sunlight filter through her fingers. That's her regulation. That's how she processes. Join it instead. Rowan approached slowly, standing beside his daughter. He lifted his own hands and moved them gently in the light, mimicking her movements. Mia glanced at him. Their eyes met, 2 full seconds of direct contact. Then she returned to her hand flapping, and Rowan kept pace beside her, tears streaming down his face. The house itself began to change. Mia's drawings appeared on the refrigerator, abstract swirls of color that Kate praised without trying to define them, sticky notes with symbols covered door frames, a heart for Mia's room, a book for the library, a plate for the kitchen. Mia had created her own visual language, and Kate had helped her map the world. The tapping rhythms echoed through hallways that had once been tomb silent. Mia would tap as she walked, and Kate would tap back from another room, and Mia would giggle, an actual, genuine giggle that made Mrs. Damien stop folding laundry just to listen. For the first time since Claire's death, Rowan felt hope unfurling in his chest like spring after endless winter. Then Lucy arrived. The doorbell rang at precisely 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Rowan opened it to find his ex-wife standing on the steps in a cream Chanel suit, her blonde hair pulled into a severe bun, her expression carved from ice. Lucy. His voice was flat. You didn't call. I don't need permission to check on my daughter's welfare. She stepped past him into the foyer, her heels clicking sharply on marble. Her gaze swept the space, taking in the colorful sticky notes, the drawings, the bins of sensory materials visible through the playroom door. Her lip curled. What on earth have you done to this house? Mia's been making progress. With a waitress? Lucy's voice rose. Mrs. Damien told me everything you fired Mia's licensed therapists and hired some unqualified girl from a restaurant. As if summoned, Kate appeared at the top of the stairs, Mia's hand in hers. Lucy's eyes widened. You let this stranger live here? Touch my daughter? Mia shrank behind Kate's leg. The movement wasn't lost on Lucy. Her expression hardened from ice to steel. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Rowan, you're in over your head. Mia needs real therapy, not arts and crafts with the help. Kate has done more for Mia in 2 weeks than trained professionals. Lucy's laugh was sharp. You're delusional, and you're endangering our daughter. She reached into her designer bag and pulled out a manila envelope. I didn't want it to come to this, but you've left me no choice. She handed him the papers. That's a petition for sole custody and an emergency motion to remove this unqualified woman from Mia's environment immediately. Rowan's blood turned to ice as he scanned the documents. Legal terms jumped out. Unsafe living conditions, unqualified caregiver, regression in development, father's impaired judgment. You can't be serious. I'm absolutely serious. Mia needs 40 hours a week of intensive evidence-based therapy. She needs structure, compliance training, real interventions, not whatever pseudoscience this girl is peddling. Lucy's voice dropped. You have 1 week to terminate this woman's employment and reinstate Mia's proper treatment team. Or I'll see you in court, and I will win. She turned to leave, then paused. And Rowan, when I get custody, you'll be lucky to have supervised visitation. You've proven you can't protect our daughter from your own desperation. The door closed behind her with a final damning click. Rowan stood frozen, the papers heavy in his hands. Upstairs, Mia had begun to hum, the distressed sound, the one that meant her world was fracturing. Kate knelt beside her, pulling out the blue calm stone, beginning the tapping pattern. And Rowan realized with crushing clarity he'd just found his daughter again. He couldn't lose her now. The law offices of Brennan and Associates occupied the 32nd floor of a glass tower downtown. All polished granite and recessed lighting, Rowan sat in the conference room surrounded by folders, depositions, and expert evaluations stacked like fortifications. His lead attorney, Brad Brennan, a silver-haired litigator with a win rate that justified his hourly fee, tapped a pen against the table. Lucy's team will attack Kate's credentials first. No degree, no license, no formal training. They'll paint her as opportunistic at best, dangerous at worst. Kate sat across from them, looking small in her borrowed blazer. Maybe I shouldn't be there. I'll only make things worse. No. Rowan's voice was firm. You're the reason we're fighting. You're the reason Mia's made progress. Progress they'll call regression, Brad interjected. Their expert witness is Dr. Patricia Voss. She wrote the book on intensive ABA therapy, literally. She'll testify that Mia needs structured intervention, not experimental rhythmic play therapy. He said the last part with audible skepticism. Kate flinched. Rowan reached across the table, his hand covering hers. You're the only one Mia listens to. That matters more than any credential. In the real world, yes, Brad said. In a courtroom, credentials are everything. He opened another folder. We have character witnesses, documentation of Mia's improvements, my cross-examination strategy. But Kate, you need to understand. They're going to try to destroy you on that stand. Kate pulled her hand back, twisting her fingers together. I know what I am. A waitress who got lucky. But Mia, her voice caught. She deserves someone who fights for her, not just manages her. Then that's what you tell them, Rowan said. When they ask who you think you are, that's your answer. The mediation room was designed to feel neutral, but everything about it screamed judgment. Beige walls, fluorescent lighting, a long conference table with Lucy's legal team on one side, 4 attorneys, 2 expert witnesses, a child psychologist, all in matching navy suits like a corporate army. On Rowan's side, Brad, 1 junior associate, and Kate. The mediator, Judge Sarah Whitmore, sat at the head of the table, her expression professionally detached. Behind her, a one-way observation window looked into a smaller room where Mia waited with a court-appointed supervisor. Lucy looked immaculate in Valentino, her posture perfect, her makeup flawless. She didn't acknowledge Rowan's presence. She simply placed her manicured hands on the table and nodded to her lead attorney. Let's begin, Judge Whitmore said. Lucy's attorney, a sharp-featured woman named Diane Castillo, stood. Your Honor, this case is straightforward. A father, grieving and desperate, replaced his daughter's licensed medical team with an unqualified restaurant employee. The results have been catastrophic. She clicked a remote. A screen descended, displaying clinical reports. Mia Hayes was enrolled in an evidence-based ABA program. 40 hours weekly with board-certified therapists, she was making measurable progress in eye contact, compliance, and verbal responses. Another click. Then Mr. Hayes terminated all professional services and installed Ms. Moreau, A woman with a bachelor's degree in psychology she never completed, 0 certifications, and whose only qualification is serving appetizers. Polite chuckles from Lucy's team. Kate's face burned. Ms. Moreau has no training in applied behavioral analysis, no understanding of autism spectrum protocols, and no business making therapeutic decisions for a vulnerable child. Diane's voice sharpened. Her gray eyes found the lens with startling clarity, as if she could see through it to the room full of lawyers and experts and people deciding her fate, and she spoke one word: home. The silence that followed was absolute. Lucy's hand flew to her mouth, her composure cracking. Dr. Voss sat frozen. Diane's notepad slipped from her fingers. Judge Whitmore leaned back in her chair, her eyes moving from Mia to Kate to Rowan. "Well," she said finally, "I think Mia just gave her testimony." Lucy's face crumpled. Not with anger, with something far more devastating: recognition. The knowledge that her daughter had chosen, clearly and unmistakably. "I withdraw my petition," Lucy whispered. I withdraw." 6 months after the mediation, the Hayes estate had transformed into something Rowan never thought possible. A home Mia's drawings covered the refrigerator in layers. Bright swirls of color that Kate had begun framing. Sticky notes with symbols decorated every doorway. The playroom overflowed with textured fabrics, painted stones, and rhythm instruments. The once silent hallways now echoed with tapping patterns and, occasionally, Mia's voice. "Blue stone," she'd say, holding up her choice at breakfast. "Calm today." Or, "More toast. 3 pieces." Short sentences. Deliberate communication miracles that happened so regularly they'd almost become routine. Almost. Rowan still felt his throat tighten every time his daughter spoke, every time she made eye contact, every time she reached for his hand and tapped a pattern against his palm. Kate had given him his daughter back. But more than that, she'd taught him how to be the father Mia needed. The 3 of them had fallen into a rhythm as natural as breathing morning tapping games over breakfast. Afternoon walks where Mia collected stones. Evening reading time where Kate would tap out the syllables of words and Mia would repeat them. The house felt alive. Full. Right. Which made Rowan's current crisis feel even more devastating. He stood on the rooftop terrace at midnight, the city sprawling below him in patterns of light. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages from the board, from investors, from journalists smelling blood in the water. The Meridian launch, his company's most ambitious project, a revolutionary AI platform he'd spent 3 years developing, was collapsing. The beta testing had revealed catastrophic flaws. His lead developer had quit. 2 major investors had pulled out. The stock price was in free fall. Rowan Hayes, the turnaround king, couldn't turn around his own company. The irony was bitter. "You've been up here for 2 hours." He turned to find Kate stepping onto the terrace, wrapped in a cardigan against the night air. She'd been living in the main house for 3 months now, her presence as essential as oxygen. "I didn't want to wake you," he said. "Mia had a nightmare called for both of us." Kate moved beside him at the railing. "I settled her. She wanted me to check on you." Despite everything, Rowan smiled. "She's worrying about me now?" "She loves you. Of course she worries." Kate studied his face in the dim light. "What's going on, Rowan?" The words spilled out before he could stop them. "Meridian's failing. The launch is a disaster. The board wants me to step down." He laughed, the sound hollow. "I've spent my entire career fixing broken companies. I built an empire on finding solutions, restructuring failures, turning chaos into profit. And now, my own company is crumbling and I can't—" His voice cracked. "I can't fix it." "So fix it," Kate said simply. "I've tried everything." "No, you've tried to control everything. There's a difference." She turned to face him fully. "Rowan, you're doing it again. The same thing you did with Mia. treating a living, breathing entity like a machine that just needs the right adjustments. He stared at her. It's a company. It needs structure, strategy. It needs leadership that understands it's made of people, not parts. Kate's voice was gentle but firm. You once told me you tried to fix Mia instead of connecting with her. You're doing the same thing now, trying to force solutions instead of listening to what the problem actually is. I don't know how to do anything else, Rowan admitted, the confession raw. I'm a fraud, Kate. I fix everything, companies, systems, quarterly reports, but I can't fix myself. I'm the one who's broken. Kate reached for his hand, her fingers warm against his. You're not broken. You're human, and humans don't need fixing. They need connection. I don't understand. Mia taught me something, Kate said softly. When she's overwhelmed, humming and rocking and retreating, I used to think my job was to stop those behaviors, to fix her distress. But that's not it at all. She squeezed his hand. You don't fix the hum, Rowan. You join the rhythm. The words settled over him like revelation. Your company isn't a problem to solve, Kate continued. It's full of people who are scared, overwhelmed, looking for leadership that understands rather than dictates. Stop trying to control the outcome. Start listening to the rhythm that's already there. Before Rowan could respond, the terrace door opened. Mia appeared in her pajamas, clutching her blue stone, her eyes concerned. She walked straight to them and held out both her small hands. Rowan took one, Kate took the other, and Mia began to tap. One hand against Rowan's palm, one against Kate's, creating a pattern that connected all three of them. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm that had saved them all. Rowan looked at his daughter, then at Kate, and felt something shift deep in his chest. Not breaking, opening. You're right, he whispered. Both of you. Mia smiled and tapped again. Together, she said. We're together. The next morning, Rowan returned to the office with a different strategy. He didn't present solutions, he asked questions. He listened to his developers' frustrations, his designers' concerns, his team's fears. He stopped trying to control the crisis and started joining the rhythm of the people living through it. Within 2 weeks, they'd found the path forward. Not his path, their path. The board was impressed. The investors returned. The launch, when it finally happened, exceeded projections. But Rowan barely noticed the success, because he'd learned something far more valuable than how to save a company. He'd learned how to be present in his own life. 1 month later, he found himself back on the rooftop terrace with Kate. Mia was asleep inside, her breathing steady, her blue stone on the nightstand. I need to tell you something, Rowan said, his heart pounding. Kate turned from the railing, her expression open, trusting. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. The board thinks I hired you as Mia's advocate. The staff thinks you're her nanny. Even the lawyers still call you an employee. He opened the box. Inside sat 3 smooth stones carved from a single piece of jade, interconnected in a flowing design, one large, one medium, one small. A family Kate's breath caught. But you're not any of those things, Rowan continued, his voice thick with emotion. You're the person who taught me how to be a father, how to listen instead of fix, how to join the rhythm instead of forcing my own. He took her hand. You brought my daughter back to me. But more than that, you made me want to be a better man. Tears spilled down Kate's cheeks. I don't have a ring because this isn't about romance or tradition or what people expect. Rowan's thumb traced her knuckles. This is about 3 people who found each other in the chaos and learned to tap the same rhythm. This is about family. He held the stones between them, their jade surfaces catching the light. Kate Moreau, will you join our rhythm? Permanently? Will you be Mia's mother, my partner, and help us build something none of us could build alone? Kate looked at the interconnected stones, then at Rowan's face. vulnerable, hopeful, completely open. "We're already in sync," she whispered, taking the stones with trembling hands. "Yes, yes to all of it." He pulled her close, and they stood together under the stars, two broken people who'd found wholeness in connection. Behind them, the terrace door creaked. Mia patted out, rubbing her eyes. She looked at them embracing, at the jade stones in Kate's hand, and understanding bloomed across her face. "Together?" she asked, her voice small but certain. Rowan knelt, opening his arms. Kate joined him. Mia ran to them, and they wrapped her in a three-way hug, a family not bound by blood or law, but by something stronger: rhythm, understanding, love. "Together," Rowan confirmed, pressing a kiss to his daughter's hair. "Always together," Kate added, her hand finding Rowan's. Mia pulled back just enough to look at both of them. Then, with the seriousness of a 6-year-old making a profound declaration, she tapped 3 times on Rowan's chest, 3 times on Kate's one rhythm. 3 hearts. "Family," Mia said. "We're family now." Later, when Mia had fallen back asleep between them on the terrace couch, Rowan and Kate sat with the 3 jade stones resting on the small table before them. Kate picked up the smallest one, running her thumb over its smooth surface. She tapped it gently against the medium stone. 1, 2, 3. Pause. Rowan picked up the largest, tapping back. 1, 2. Pause. The rhythm echoed softly across the terrace, a conversation without words, a promise made in the only language that had ever really mattered. Not fixing, not controlling, not forcing solutions onto problems, just connection. Just presence, just joining the rhythm that was already there, waiting to be heard. In the morning, the 3 stones would find their permanent place on the mantel in Mia's room. But tonight, they rested together on the table. 3 separate pieces carved from one whole, perfect, complete, home.
Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next journey together. Drop a comment below. What moment resonated most with you? Your thoughts mean everything. Until the next story, keep believing in life's beautiful surprises. See you soon.